So the Supreme Court is on the verge of being packed as we speak. Democrats have been talking about court packing for years here and there, but there really hasn't been any serious talk about it happening. Now what we see is the House and Senate Democrats planning a bill to add up to 4 justices, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 justices to the Supreme Court. We're going to get to all this and more, but make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new before we get started. So here we go. You have the Democrats gain control of the House in 2018, and in 2020, they just narrowly flipped the Senate. Technically, it's 50-50, but Kamala Harris does break ties. Now, because Republicans have a 6-3 advantage on the court, barely, because a lot of these Federalist Society justices stab us in the back all the time. It's really like a 4-5 court or 5-4 at most. It seems like the only 2 consistent votes that conservatives have on our side are the epic and based Clarence Thomas or Samuel Alito from time to time. Now, when it comes down to the left, their justices almost never defect unless it's something so obvious when it comes to the Constitution, but that's really beside the point. The main point is the court already isn't really 6-3, but still they want power. And they want to add 4 justices to the Supreme Court for the first time in 100 years or so. FDR talked about expanding the court. Many people refer to it as an authoritarian point of history. When it comes down to FDR didn't actually expand or pack the court, but he talked about it. And that is exactly what is being talked about now. Joe Biden has stated that he has roughly no opinion on this, which means that probably if there was a bill that came to his desk to pack the Supreme Court, he absolutely would. 100%, he absolutely would. Because Biden is weak, and Biden is controlled by the establishment. He's feeble Joe for a reason. He is very feeble, he is old, and he is somebody who is very easy to control. And that needs to be the messaging for 2022 for the Republicans as an anti-Biden sentiment to increase turnout. So, in terms of packing the court, will it exactly happen? The answer is no. And this measure in the short term is a big gift to Republicans. In the long term, it will inevitably end up being a terrible thing for Republicans. And we're going to talk about why a little bit later in the video, but why is it good for Republicans? The answer is obvious, because it's not going to pass. And even Pelosi has rebuffed the measure. It's not going to be on the floor to begin with, because Democrats know that it's a disaster waiting to happen. Packing the court is extremely unpopular. If the Republicans were going to do it, it would be unpopular. If the Democrats were going to do it, it would be unpopular. So when it comes down to all of these measures getting through, it's not going to happen. Second of all, we can look at the current Senate map here. Don't pack, those are the Republican seats. Pack, those are the Democrat seats. No Republican is going to vote to pack the court, and it would just take 1 Democrat to defect to not pack the court. Joe Manchin, I doubt, is going to vote to pack the court. Maybe if he was the deciding vote, he would, because he probably isn't going to run for re-election, but John Tester is, and he would probably vote to not pack the court if that bill did get to the Senate, which it won't. Now, to be honest, I don't even think it would get 218 votes in the House, let alone 200. There are over a dozen districts that are represented by Democrats that actually voted for Trump in the 2020 presidential election. I believe Wisconsin's 3rd is a good example of that. Ron Kyne's district, there's several others. So I don't think it would pass, especially because you have a lot of people who will be vulnerable incumbents in 2022. But you also have to look at the fact that if it did pass and get to the Senate, this is what would happen. Sinema, I don't think would vote for it either. Arizona it's been a little bit of a status quo state, kind of. I would say that if you want to be reelected in the state, you obviously should not vote for it. Mark Kelly, that's a big one because he's up for reelection this time. Georgia, I think that they would still both vote to pack it. Even Warnock, I think he would risk it, judging based off of his ideologies a little bit further left than Ossoff even, and Ossoff wouldn't do it because he's not up until 2026. And by then, Georgia will likely be a blue state. If Donald Trump wins in 2024, or Ron DeSantis, or whoever, then obviously Georgia would probably stay blue in the Senate based off of a little bit of a blue wave year. Sununu likely running up in New Hampshire should prompt Maggie Hassan to vote not to pack the Supreme Court. And Catherine Cortez Masto as well, being up for re-election, would also probably not vote to pack at that point. So it's not going to happen. There's only roughly maybe 44 votes for it at most at this point. I don't believe that I'm really missing anybody, but at that point, it's very, very unlikely to happen. Maybe Warnock even would make a political move and vote not to pack the court to increase his chances in 2022, because I do believe that is a winnable seat for a Republican, even though the state has been trending away. So 56 not to pack, 44 to pack. So the good news is it's not likely to happen. But let's say it did happen. It would be absolutely awful. Let's say all of these red representatives here voted to pack the court in all of these states, and Kamala Harris breaks the tie 51-50. So there's 4 new Supreme Court justices. It will make Republicans angry, and it will be a massive disaster for the country in the time being. If a Republican does manage to get elected in 2024, they probably would have an edge because they'd be angry and they'd probably pack the court again. The Democrats that would take over in the future would pack the court again and again and again. It would be a disaster. But the bottom line is it's not going to pass. If it did, Democrats would be screwed in the Senate. You look at all of these swing states here, Republicans would take Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, at that point North Carolina. They would win in Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. At that point, it would be a wipeout across the board. Even Colorado could be a little bit competitive depending on the candidate, but it probably wouldn't flip. But they would be livid. Even the fact that they're trying this now helps Republicans in Nevada, in Arizona, in Georgia. And it will be a question that is talked about. I feel like down ballot, Democrats were hurt severely in the 2020 election because they didn't give a clear answer on court packing. It's not popular. And either way, I think Republicans would sweep all of the toss-up seats in the Senate based off of just the proposal of it, not it passing through. If it passes through, I think that they would do very well in 2022, but the long-term implications would be a disaster. So what exactly are the long-term implications that are so bad about this proposal? Because we see this happen all the time. Like I've said before, this is ammo for the GOP to run on in 2022. Okay, but what is the downside of this? What is the downside? The fact that it's being proposed means that it will likely be supported and will happen at some point in the future. We see this all the time, whether it's on economic issues like healthcare, late-term abortion, or BLM. Typically, what gets proposed that is considered crazy by the party at the time eventually becomes the norm. Keep this in mind, especially on social issues. Definitely a lot more so than economic issues. You could argue that some Democrats have moved right on certain economic issues over the years, especially like free trade. You can thank Trump and the realignment that's happening for that. But take BLM, for example. I remember in 2015, Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley were out there saying all lives matter, but then 2 years later, all lives matter becomes one of the most racist things that you could say. And they say you're delegitimizing black people or whatever if you say all lives matter, which is on the surface a very unitarian phrase. But no, that apparently is considered to be a hate speech nowadays within the ranks of the Democrats, despite the fact they were using it a few years back. Think about the wall. Remember Democrats voting for the wall? You look where they are now on the wall. They oppose it, even though Biden somehow has sort of building the wall now because he has to, because his approval rating on immigration is like 34% or something like that. It's kind of like a Macron effect that is happening with Joe Biden. It's very interesting to look at. But Democrats, as we know, on these issues, they keep pushing the Overton window to the left. And the Republicans cave. They don't push the Overton window back to the right. Trump in 2016 made some effort. I think he did that within his own party on a lot of the right issues, but we still got a long way to go. This is a long, long battle of ideology that has been happening in our country, and it will take a while for the Republicans to really get in line and win. That's why primaries are very important for 2022. You have to look at the candidates, do your own research, see who's actually America first and who just uses America first as a label, even though that they are really no different than your average Marco Rubio type Republican. So keep that in mind. But always, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video down below, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. Links are all in the description below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.